In this lesson, we're going to have a look at some quotes about this novel and then complete a fun quiz. As always, you should be taking notes, as the material we cover in this second lesson will be our reference points when we begin to read the novel in the next lesson. You'll need your novel notebook and this handout, which will be given to you as a hard copy in class. You'll recognize some of the book jackets from the first lesson when you had to sort various book covers into categories. There are 9 quotes on these pages, followed by 7 questions, to which you must give written answers. The first quote. The Great Gatsby captures something about the American psyche that most of us would recognize, which is a willingness to start over, reinvent ourselves, imagine a new life. In a way, that dream is a lot of what built this country. The key thought here is the reference to reinventing oneself, starting over, and the this country referred to is the United States of America. In this longer quote, there are references to the American dream. We'll be discussing that in some detail as we read the novel. The characters J. Gatsby, Tom and Daisy, as well as the narrator Nick Carraway. There's also a reference to a symbol which you came across so many times when you studied the various covers of the novel, the green light. Follow as I read the quote to you. I can think of no other novel that so perfectly sums up the allure and contradiction of the American dream, and in less than 50,000 words. Fitzgerald exposes us all as misguided strivers, caught up in our own romantic imagination, leeches attaching to whatever pumps the warmest blood. We are not J. Gatsby, for the man does not exist. Instead, we are Nick Carraway, unconsciously reckless, the cause of all this trouble. He is the American innocent, guilty as sin, as holy as the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. We remember Gatsby and Daisy and Tom and those extravagant parties, but we forget Nick, or deny Nick's true role. He is our blind spot, our green light. The key word in this quote is illusion. It reads as follows. Perhaps more than any other novel, The Great Gatsby shows us how shallow our illusions of self-invention truly are, even as it lets us glimpse the beautiful longing underneath those illusions. In 50,000 words, he, that's the author, Scott Fitzgerald, tells you the central fable of America, and yet you feel like you are eating whipped cream. You'll have to work out what Jonathan Franzen means when he writes of the central fable of America. Do you think that you can disown or ignore your past? It's an important concept in the novel. The lure of the idea that we can better ourselves by disowning our past. Not only Gatsby's theme, but the classic theme of American literature. This quote refers to 3 great characters from American literature. J. Gatsby from The Great Gatsby, Nick Adams, the main character in a collection of short stories written by Ernest Hemingway, and Clarissa Dalloway, the title character in the novel Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. The quote reads, Was 1925 the greatest year in literature? The ultimate proof, a century later, is the shape-shifting the novel has undergone, still based on these early inspirations, and the continuing resonance of Nick Adams, J. Gatsby, and Clarissa Dalloway. These characters from a transformative time are still enthralling generations of new readers. If there is such a thing as the great American novel, then The Great Gatsby must be a contender for that accolade. Christina Garcia writes that The Great Gatsby is a love letter to a lost world of elegance, glamour, and misplaced honor. The Great Gatsby devours you heart and soul, and it is lodged undeniably in the genetic makeup of every great American novel since. One of the questions that you'll be asked as we read the novel is it still relevant today? Lionel Trilling is of the opinion that The Great Gatsby is still as fresh as when it first appeared. It has even gained in weight and relevance, which can be said of very few American books of its time. This, I think, is to be attributed to the specifically intellectual courage with which it was conceived and executed. We'll come back to this reference a number of times, that Gatsby doesn't care about money itself. All he cares about is love. The quote reads, "It's possible we Americans are not entirely rational about The Great Gatsby. Gatsby becomes fabulously wealthy, but he doesn't care about money itself. He lives in a beautiful mansion and dresses beautifully, but everything he does is for love. He invents a hero called J. Gatsby and then inhabits this creation, just as we hope to reinvent ours." You are to select one of the 9 quotes from the previous slides and then answer these 7 questions. Why did you choose this quote? In one word, what sentiment does the speaker reveal about his or her feelings toward the novel? Compose 3 questions about the novel that this quote prompts you to ask. From the quote, how might you characterize the main character, J. Gatsby? From the quote, can you discern a theme that might be addressed in the novel? What do you anticipate your feelings toward the novel will be? And what do you anticipate your feelings about J. Gatsby will be? When you have finished your answers, hand in your notebook and collect this quiz and discover whether you would make a Great Gatsby. Obviously, I'm referring to the character of the novel. I'm not asking you whether you can make this South African street food delicacy a Gatsby. For non-South African students and teachers, by way of explanation, in South Africa, if anyone refers to a Gatsby, this is the picture that will come to mind, not the novel by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This is a series of video lessons made for my students who are unable to attend classes due to the coronavirus pandemic. If you find these video lessons helpful, please feel free to pass them on to your friends and colleagues. And if you'd like to make copies of the worksheets that I have used for your own classes, you can get them from Oh Some Great Stuff for English Teachers on the Teachers Pay Teachers website. A thumbnail of the bundle is on the top right of the screen.